Hello viewers, I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. 2024 marked a pivotal year for India, where the nation made remarkable strides on the global stage. Strengthening its international relations, India forged deeper ties with major world powers, showcasing unparalleled leadership in global forums. Politically, the year saw continued stability and progress driven by transformative reforms aimed at enhancing democracy and governance. The economy flourished, positioning India as a dynamic hub of innovation, and in the world of sports, India achieved historic milestones, inspiring millions. Let's revisit 2024 and explore how these achievements collectively embody India's steadfast vision of becoming a Viksit Bharat.
India's 2024 was a year of challenges and remarkable achievements, both globally and domestically. At the G20 summit in Brazil, India was engaged in key discussions on food security and sustainable development, championing the Global South's cause. As the world's largest democracy, India called for reforms in global institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, while strengthening alliances in the Quad and BRICS to shape regional security and global governance. At COP29, India advocated for climate justice and secured financial commitments for developing nations. New trade partnerships across Africa, the Middle East and Southeast Asia boosted its global influence. Through humanitarian aid and disaster relief, India reaffirmed its dedication to multilateralism, peace and sustainable progress.
आज जब भारत ग्लोबल प्लेटफॉर्म पर कुछ कहता है तो दुनिया सुनती है। आज दुनिया में कहीं भी संकट आए, भारत फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्डर के रूप में सामने आता है।
In 2024, India's democracy showcased its strength and vitality. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made history as only the second leader to secure a third consecutive term, a testament to his enduring political influence and the unwavering trust of millions. This milestone reflected the resilience of India's democratic spirit and its people's commitment to progress. A landmark in India's democratic journey, Jammu and Kashmir held its first legislative assembly elections in a decade. With remarkable voter turnout, these elections marked a resilient democratic process and the dawn of a new political era in the region.
Democracy of India stands stronger than ever. The voters have spoken. We saw the voters really taking into consideration what is good for me, and I think that changed the equation.
In 2024, India achieved remarkable progress across its economy, infrastructure and social sectors. Around 250 million people were lifted out of poverty, marking a historic milestone. Healthcare saw a major boost with free services extended to all senior citizens and enhanced public health infrastructure. The nation celebrated transformative projects like the Atal Setu, India's longest sea bridge, and the modernization of railway stations. Vadodara city became home to India's first C-295V aircraft manufacturing plant. In space, the Aditya L1 mission set new benchmarks, while striding in AI and renewable energy showcased India's innovation. India reaffirmed its commitment to women's empowerment and gender equality, breaking new ground in the defense sector and inspiring a future of inclusivity and strength.
The experience of witnessing women soldiers from all three services coming together as one contingent is amazing. It is remarkable. And we came here as three different components, but we trained together as one. And now we are marching together on the Kartavya Path as ambassadors of Nari Shakti. It feels amazing.
India made remarkable strides in sports in 2024, achieving historic milestones and global recognition. From winning the ICC T20 World Cup to securing 29 Paralympic medals, the nation showcased its sporting prowess. A double victory at the Chess Olympiad solidified India's position as a chess powerhouse, while 18-year-old G. Sukesh Domaraju became the youngest world chess champion. 2024 was truly a year of exceptional sporting excellence for India.
The situation in Bangladesh has reached a critical juncture marked by escalating violence and the systematic persecution of minority groups. The ruling government's failure to address these egregious human rights violations while simultaneously pressuring India for the repatriation of ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina highlights a profound hypocrisy. At a recent press conference in New Delhi, journalists and activists united to expose the dire plight of religious minorities in Bangladesh, holding the government accountable for its indifference and inaction. A report.
Bangladesh is currently grappling with serious challenges related to religious intolerance, the treatment of minorities, and the rise of Islamic militancy. Since the rise to power of the Yunus government, extremist groups have been increasingly active, expanding their influence in the country. Radical Islamic groups continue to target minority communities including Hindus, Christians, indigenous people and tribal groups, often with the tacit support or indifference of the ruling regime. In response to these alarming developments, a significant press conference was recently held in New Delhi to highlight the dire situation faced by these vulnerable groups in Bangladesh. The event, hosted at the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia, sought to raise awareness about the escalating persecution and to draw attention to the grave human rights violations under the current political leadership.
Under Yunus' shoulder, militant Islamists are ruling the country. So until Yunus goes, nothing will happen. So this is illegal government. Somehow this government has to go. I don't know how, but we are here to help. We are urging the world, say, please look into this. A country cannot be run by an illegal government. Yunus government is an Islamist government.
The situation in Bangladesh has reached a critical juncture marked by widespread and targeted violence against minorities, signaling a severe humanitarian crisis. Recently, at least 17 homes belonging to the Christian community were set on fire on Christmas Eve. The devastating arson attack occurred while the residents were away in a nearby village for prayers and Christmas celebrations, leaving them homeless and deeply traumatized.
All the elements of atrocities are in Bangladesh now towards minority people. The minority means it's not only Hindus, it targeted to Buddhist, Christian, Aboriginal people, tribal people, atheist, transgender, to everyone. So it's not only just Hindus. So the situation is very worse since 5th of August. It started with 5th of August, still happening. They are burning Christian houses, they are burning Buddhist temple, they are burning Hindu temple, they are killing the Shabayat, the Shabayat of the Shoshan, they are killing them. It's everyday incident, and especially our daughters and mothers are not safe in Bangladesh now because they could be easily targeted.
Bangladesh's treatment of its minorities, coupled with its demands on India for the repatriation of ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, exposes a glaring hypocrisy. This double standard is evident as Bangladesh attempts to exert pressure on neighboring nations like India, demanding Hasina's return while failing to address its own internal human rights violations. The recent Delhi press conference made it abundantly clear that India will not entertain any request to send Sheikh Hasina back to Bangladesh under any circumstances.
I believe India will never hand over Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh, and India should not. Because India always help the helpless. So Sheikh Hasina is at this time is helpless. So as a Hindu majority, the Hindus always help the poor. So she should be. India should never give Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh. So no question.
The international community continues to watch closely as the situation in Bangladesh evolves, with mounting calls for action to protect the rights and safety of its vulnerable minorities. The need for global intervention remains urgent as the persecution of these communities intensifies.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
People around the world, including in India, ushered in 2025 with a blend of tradition and modern celebrations. In India, devotees gathered in temples to offer prayers for blessings in the year ahead, while cities across the city lit up with vibrant fireworks and firecrackers. The night was filled with music, dancing, and spirited gatherings as people exchanged warm wishes and celebrated together. Globally, the festivities symbolized unity, hope, and new beginnings, with individuals connecting across borders to share in the joy and optimism for the future. It was a night that transcended cultures, marking a fresh start for all. Pakistan's major Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islami, held a mass rally in the capital city of Islamabad. The party's leader called on the Pakistani government to recognize Hamas as a legitimate military force and isolate Israel. Hamas, a militant group that governs the Gaza Strip, is designated as a terrorist organization by countries including the United States, the European Union, Canada, and several others. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, called for Syrian resistance during a speech ahead of the 5th death anniversary of Iran's slain Revolutionary Guards commander Qasem Soleimani. He said in his speech in Tehran, Iran, that reviving the resistance front was Soleimani's constant goal. January 3rd marked 5 years since Soleimani was assassinated in a US missile strike in Iraq.
Let's turn our attention to Afghanistan, which has now become a place of profound suffering for its women under Taliban rule. Since seizing power again in August 2021, the Taliban have launched an unrelenting campaign to exclude women from public life, flagrantly disregarding international standards and plunging the nation deeper into despair. Their recent measures, such as banning women from working with NGOs and even forbidding them from praying aloud, have triggered widespread outrage and condemnation across the globe.
The Taliban's latest decree banning women from working in national and international NGOs marks yet another dark chapter in the systematic oppression of women. The order threatens to revoke the licenses of any NGO that employs women, a move that has alarmed humanitarian organizations already struggling to deliver aid in a country on the brink of collapse. This decree is not an isolated act. It comes 2 years after the Taliban banned Afghan women from working in NGOs for allegedly not wearing the Islamic headscarf correctly. Now even stricter controls are being imposed, pushing women further into the shadows.
We're deeply alarmed by the recent announcement by the de facto authorities in Afghanistan that they will revoke the licenses of NGOs if they continue to employ Afghan women. This is absolutely the wrong path. NGOs play a vital role in providing critical life-saving assistance to Afghan men, women, girls, and boys. And this measure will directly impact the ability of the population to receive humanitarian aid. We urge the de facto authorities in Afghanistan to reverse this deeply discriminatory decree and all other measures which seek to eradicate women and girls' access to education, work, and public services. No country can progress politically, economically, or socially while excluding half of their population from public life. For the future of Afghanistan, the de facto authorities must change course.
The consequences of these policies are devastating. Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis is worsening, with over half the population living in poverty and dependent on aid. NGOs have been a lifeline, especially for women and children, who are the most vulnerable. The United Nations has warned that banning women from NGO roles will cripple relief efforts, as female workers are often essential in reaching marginalized communities. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk expressed deep alarm, stating, "I am deeply alarmed at the recent announcement by the de facto authorities in Afghanistan that non-governmental organizations' licenses will be revoked if they continue to employ Afghan women. This is absolutely the wrong path being taken by the de facto authorities." This is part of a broader pattern of repression. Women are barred from education beyond primary school, excluded from most professions, and prohibited from accessing public spaces such as parks and gyms.
Over the past 3 years, the women and girls of Afghanistan have seen an egregious erosion of their human rights. National edicts and local initiatives have curtailed their rights to education and decent work and ended their rights to freedom of movement, peaceful assembly, and freedom of expression. The cumulative impact has almost erased women and girls from public life and left them virtual prisoners in their own homes. This oppression of half the population, based on gender, is unparalleled in today's world and amounts to state-sponsored, systematic gender persecution. This is self-harm on a national scale, which will have catastrophic and intergenerational impact on the country's prospects for peace and sustainable development.
A new edict even forbids women from praying aloud, citing the Taliban's interpretation of Islamic law, which claims that a woman's voice is aura, something to be concealed. Experts warn that this repression is not just a human rights crisis, but also an economic catastrophe. Women represent nearly half of Afghanistan's potential workforce. By excluding them, the Taliban are crippling the nation's recovery and growth. The Taliban's policies are self-destructive, as no country can prosper while sidelining half its population. This is particularly evident in the healthcare sector, where banning women from nursing and midwifery programs has left critical gaps in an already fragile system. These measures are setting Afghanistan back by decades.
If you're removing women from nursing and midwifery especially, who is going to deliver those children? What happens when there is a pregnancy complication? Men aren't allowed to touch women or see women in hospitals. So when there is a complication, who are you going to, call for help? In fact, what's surprising about this is midwifery is a very traditional profession for women in Afghanistan. True, it wasn't formally a profession, but it certainly was a sort of informal profession in the sense that a village would have a midwife and go around. So if this is being barred, you're going to see these impacts on women's health, especially that of pregnant women, very, very soon. And the issue, of course, is there's not really going to be a backlash because, it's not a country where known for freedom of expression and things like that. Like I said, all of these are going to have a cumulative effect on Afghanistan being able to defend itself. It is going to weaken society. It is going to weaken the Taliban government itself.
The international community has repeatedly condemned the Taliban's actions, but the regime remains defiant. While no country has formally recognized the Taliban government, economic and political engagements continue, often without conditions tied to women's rights. Activists are calling for stricter measures, urging global powers to make any engagement with the Taliban contingent on restoring women's rights. Without such pressure, Afghan women face an increasingly bleak future.
Let's now head to Nepal's Amitabh Monastery, where a remarkable group of Kung Fu nuns showcase their martial arts skills to celebrate the institution's reopening after a 5-year hiatus. With their unwavering commitment to both spiritual growth and social service, these nuns are not only breaking traditional barriers but also leading the way for a more inclusive and empowering future within the Buddhist monastic community. Take a look.
In a dazzling display of martial arts, about a dozen nuns from the Amitabh Monastery in Nepal performed hand chops, high kicks and even wielded swords as hundreds of cheering well-wishers gathered to celebrate the long-awaited reopening of their nunnery. The event marked the reopening of the Hilltop Monastery after 5 years of closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The nuns, aged between 17 and 30, are members of the 1,000-year-old Drukpa lineage, a sect that is groundbreaking for offering nuns equal status to monks. This makes them the only female order in the traditionally male-dominated Buddhist monastic system.
So when I was very little, when I was 12, I was a very rebellious kid. I was, when people used to tell me, you shouldn't do this because you're a girl, I used to get very angry when I was little. I was always on that side of, my personality was that way. So when people, His Holiness the Gyalwang Drukpa, our root guru, came to our place and he talked about women empowerment, gender equality, how girls are important, how giving equal chances is important. I was very inspired and I followed him to be a nun.
Traditionally, nuns are expected to cook, clean and refrain from practicing martial arts. However, Gyalwang Drukpa, a revered monk who is ranked slightly below the Dalai Lama in the Tibetan Buddhist hierarchy, broke this mold. He decided to train women in Kung Fu to enhance both their physical health and spiritual well-being. The nunnery, established in 2009, has since grown to include 300 members ranging in age from 6 to 54.
As a perspective from a Buddhist side, I think our main goal is to attain enlightenment as Buddha. But for now, as I am a normal person, I think I would be more focusing on helping others. Like we always say, like helping others is our religion. Whatever is more beneficial for other people, I would like to do that. Like we do a lot of self-defense workshops and we do a lot for environment. I think that would be my goal for now, coming forward.
The nunnery's website highlights how the integration of gender equality, physical strength and a deep respect for all living things reflects the order's return to its true spiritual roots. In addition to their Kung Fu practices, the nuns have embarked on lengthy expeditions across the Himalayas, both on foot and by bike, to raise funds for disaster relief and promote eco-friendly living.
I really want to become a nun, and I have seen that nuns are doing lots of different walks, and they also perform the Kung Fu. And you know, I am very happy. I'm really attached with them, and I really want to become a nun to help others. Like they are helping lots of people at the time also. That's why I decided to become a nun at the young age. I don't have a very big thoughts, but I really want to help with only a few people also. At the beginning, I only help with some of the people I know.
In a demonstration of both strength and spiritual commitment, the Kung Fu nuns of Druk Amitabh Monastery continue to break barriers and inspire those around them with their dedication to women's empowerment and social service.
The Kung Fu nuns in Nepal are paving the way for a more inclusive tomorrow. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.